I've always been a nerd. My entire life, as early as I could remember, like I was drawing comic book characters and writing little stories and things of that nature. I would play with my cousins and kick it with my family and things of that nature. But I would always find myself secluding to storytell. I was always into these grand fantasies, and I was connected to my creativity and my eccentricity at a very young age. And it wasn't until I hit my teen years where I started to let a lot of that go. I was raised on the stage. I used to act and do plays and competitive acting and things of that nature. And I had quite a path ahead of me. Got paid for acting at the ages of like 9, 10, and 11 years old. But as soon as I was now trying to be perceived as cool, or even more specifically, I wanted to be quote unquote blacker, right? Because I was told that what I was doing was acting white. The way in which I was speaking and articulating myself was acting white. Now, I've always had hip hop ingrained and deep hip hop influences. I mean, I remember getting the Get Rich or Die Trying album early on. The first video my pops has of me like doing something, acting, whatever wise, is me rapping bar for bar that damn song. Well, at least not bar for bar, right? It was a clean version that I got. My Christian pops was not about to have that. But I had these elements, and growing up in an African family, but then moving to the United States and having, this multicultural aspect. So it wasn't that I was like the American typical nerd. It was just I was eccentric. I was an individual. I was myself until I wasn't. And I remember the switch was around 11 to 12 years old when I realized that, man, if I continue to be this person, I might not make it in high school, or I might not make it in middle school, let alone high school. I might not be accepted. And I had this kind of understanding, this almost bird's eye perspective of what I needed to do in order to become one of the fold. And the first thing that came up was sports. If I start to hoop, if I, get myself on the team and become accepted by that world, then I could get at least a foot in the door of being cool. And so sixth grade rolls around, and I started kind of abandoning the friends, the real friends that I had, and instead started kicking it with the people that I wanted to affiliate and associate with. Some individuals would become my best friends throughout life, and unfortunately would end up losing their lives because of this very same thing, right? A little spoiler alert. But I found myself in the sixth grade, and all of a sudden, like I start to put on the image of coolness. And unfortunately, and this is what I say all the time, it's like when you try to fit in and you end up fitting in, is one of the worst things that can happen. The best thing that can happen for you is for you to like put on this front, this mask, and it doesn't work because you will be disincentivized. But for me, that shit started to work. Like I started getting accepted by the people that I wanted acceptance from. Like I was becoming homeboys with, the coolest people on campus and things of that nature, really being accepted. And so I continued on. I didn't make the basketball team my sixth or seventh grade year, but eighth grade, like I worked my ass off. I ended up getting on that team. But by the time I was on that team, I was already a part of the mix. I was already one of the boys. And even more so because of, a little gift of gab or whatever it was, I was, able to get my way around, got a couple quote unquote girlfriends throughout the time. Whatever was considered a baddie back then, standards have definitely changed ever since. But I was in a position where I thought that, man, like I'm finally living this life where I'm accepted. Like I'm one of y'all. I don't stand out, which was a conflict a little bit in my true nature, which is, the eccentricness in me. And the contrarian in me was kind of battling, but nevertheless, there was a stronger pull and an urge to belong. And so I started doing all the things that were necessary to make me more black. The way I dressed, you understand me? Like there is certain like swag that if the kids looked at it today, be like, what the hell are you wearing? But back then it was dope. Like it was considered as it, especially in the Bay Area. There was a time when wearing like Hollister shirts and like True Religion jeans and things of that nature, like that was seen as, that was hood attire. That was, what like the Bay Area rappers, like at least the street rappers, that's what they were wearing. The YNs of that time, that's what they were wearing. And so I started to adapt the image of that. I started to put on, a whole lot of the same little drip. I might have thrown on a do-rag or whatever it was, right? Bandana. There was still a little bit of coolness, attached to throwing on a little bandana and things of that nature. It's like caricature that we're really playing out. And again, obviously, getting girls and things of that nature was connected to being cool. Like a black dude is going, he's going to get it in. That's what it means to be black. My language started to change. So hip hop language became my own language. And even though in eighth grade, I probably had my best academic year because my pops had real life incentives for me. I ended up going into getting a scholarship into a private school that my homeboy, actually, his cousins had gone there. He had wanted to go there his whole life. He ended up not getting in. I did. And I didn't even know what the school was about. I didn't know a damn thing. I just went and took the test, ended up getting in. They gave me a scholarship. And it's ironic because as soon as I started to go to a Catholic school, majority white school, it got infinitely worse. That's when I started to sell dope. That's when I started to get on the damn dope. You understand me? That's when I really started to put on the facade because I'm surrounded by these people who are now seeing me through that lens, and it's feeding my ego that much more. Now I'm throwing on the slang that much more. Now I'm, being whatever it is. And I remember being called out one time by a white girl. I realized at this point she was just, she was bitter because I wasn't willing to get active with her. We'll just put it that way. Because she was one of them types. We all have the chick in high school who is super active in 304 behaviors at a very young age. But she was like, how do you go to a school like this, but you talk like that? Like, she was straight up. She had sensed something. Maybe, she had that level of discernment. And I argued with her and went back and forth with her, or whatever it was, right? But back to the point at hand, I found myself in a place where I had first pretended to be this thing, and now I had believed that I was this thing. And it began to deteriorate my life. It started to strip my real life away from me. I became hooked on first, obviously you start with the loud pack, you start with you start with the Maui Wowie, the ganja, and then it turns into pills. And then it turns into, okay, a little Molly here. Okay, let's sip on a little drink. And it got degeneratively worse. And throughout that entire time, throughout my addiction, I still had some level of consciousness. And that's why I'm thankful for my true upbringing, who I was actually raised to be. So I had at least enough insight to still be able to see around me. But again, the pull of wanting to be accepted and the fact that it was working and I was being accepted, all the juniors and the seniors were now accepting me into the fold of what they had going on. The dudes who I looked to get acceptance from in middle school were now like, they were like my sidekicks now. Now I was him. And the high school that I went to, one of the dudes ended up being third draft pick in the NBA. And so it's like that whole energy. And you're one of the few black kids on campus. You're accepted as a freshman, as a sophomore. I thought I was living the life. But yet throughout that time, I was feeling a hollowness. I was being invited to all the parties. Everything was popping on a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday type shit. Like going to the parties, doing the thing, drinking the duh, smoking the duh. That was our lifestyles at a very young age. People were seeing us as these rebels, but we're cool and we're in. Girls are trying to affiliate with us just because of that image. And so again, it's feeding the ego, but my soul was being stripped from me. It's feeding the ego, but it's starving the soul. And I felt a hollowness through that life. And, some people ask me, it's like, damn, why do you go so hard about these subjects of, to let go of this criminal culture and to really reevaluate this thing of racism being the reason why we are where we are instead of looking at culture and things of that nature? It's because I know what that culture does. I know what the criminal culture does. I know what the things that we are promoting does in real time. I lost 3 of my best friends, dudes who I spent damn near every single day in high school with. 3 of my best friends I lost to that life. They're not here anymore because they weren't able to break free from that. It was a coping mechanism. They use it as a means to deal with those internal pains, those internal hurts. And I was blessed enough at 19 years old to make a decision that changed everything. It was the hardest decision I ever made, not just getting off the dope, but to get out the lifestyle and to separate myself, to remove myself from those people. One of my homeboys who I just had to bury last year, his pops is an OG out there in Palo Alto. He's a known factor, a B. I just put it that way. And he was telling me like, bro, like you need to get out of all of this. Like you're too talented. Like you got too much going on. Like and by that time, thankfully I distanced myself, but his own son was caught up in it. And there's nothing he could tell his boy. There's nothing he could tell his son, because he was so far gone. And that's what this lifestyle does. it will destroy you and everything around you. It will destroy you and everything around you. It is dysfunction. It is toxicity. It is chaos. There's nothing in there that is cool. There's nothing in there that is dope. And I wish this message was only for the youth, like youngsters, the kids, the YNs, whatever you want to call them. But unfortunately, there's a lot of so-called grown folks, adults who need to hear this just as much because they're falling into the very same traps, and they continue to perpetuate that lifestyle, and they continue to make excuses for it. I don't believe in everything that a person like Candace Owens says, right? I'm not Candace Owens. I am my own person. But I am always in awe of how a person like her is seen as an enemy of the Black community, but yet the person who is promoting and pushing this life of degeneracy, who is pushing this message of taking one another's lives, that person is promoted, they're pedestalized. But a person who's saying, let's do for self, a person who's saying personal agency matters, that person is seen as the enemy. And that shows you our allergy to personal accountability. It shows you that we've gotten to a place where we bury so much shame, and we're so afraid to deal with it that we would rather just point the finger and keep the shame than we would actually deal with it and resolve it. I understand why it's hard to take personal accountability. I do. I understand why. Trust me. Because when you take personal accountability, it means you have to look at yourself in the mirror. It means you have to actually deal with the pain. I get it. And there's a fear of punishment because most of us, we came up in households where if you did something quote unquote wrong, you were punished for it. You weren't corrected or even disciplined in some cases. You were just punished for it. There was anger, retaliation. And so we fear that there's going to be some sort of punishment when in truth, all you're going to get is freedom from that. When you can say, I made these decisions that led to this and this and this in my life, you have freedom as a result of that. And so when I caught myself, again, I was on, like, I got messages throughout that entire time. God was always with me, always walking with me. I always have folks praying for me and but again, I couldn't hear them, but the power of that energy, I believe, was definitely conducive to where I ended up. Right. And it's what I'm most thankful in this life. And again, why I will never stop preaching the truth, why I never stop talking, because I was given more than a second chance. I was given a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth chance. Even in the context of that, y'all, like the fact that I don't have that F on my damn report card, aka like the felony, on my rap sheet, is because I was sent damn angels disguised as police. That's why I don't go off about police. I understand that there could be bad seeds in the bunch or whatever, but I had white police officers who let me go on crazy stuff. I'm talking about 3 ounces in the damn glove compartment type situations. And they let me go. Slap on the wrist. I'm talking about situations a car has been freshly hotboxed. They go in the trunk. There's a set of pills. And one of the cops ends up putting my scale on the front of the car so her partner doesn't find it. And we end up scot-free. Like situations y'all would not believe. Y'all would not. I might have to do a video on like the cop encounters that I've had, which were just godsends to me. It was like every single step of the way. I've been through crazy things that I allowed, and I made terrible decisions that led me there that I was spared from. And I saw my boys get chance after chance. Before my first homeboy passed at 22, before the other one at 26, and then the other at 27, before that happened, I saw us all getting chance after chance after chance, getting in this situation, that situation, life in this situation, and we end up scot-free. I believe there's people who got way less chances and it was over like that. And so for me, it's personal. It is personal. It is personal. I do believe that this culture is toxic and it's problematic and it needs to be called out for exactly what it is. That's why I talk about the woke ideology, because it feeds right into this. It is a cancer in the midst of the human species. Once you start ideas are the most powerful thing that exists. Ideas. Simple. When you adopt an idea, when you own that idea, it becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of your perception and how you move through life. And so when you have toxic, dysfunctional ideas, you have a toxic, dysfunctional life, and you will corrupt the ones around you. And the ones who are the most susceptible are those babies, those children. And I'll be damned if I allow that to happen so long as I can do something about it. Simple.
I used to be afraid of the dark, a place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's night. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.